All right, for this assignment, I'm going to take another shot at the custom function assignment right here. I think that last one that I did was probably a little bit too complicated, especially for some of the beginner coders out there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a new function down here. I'll start on line 6. And this one I'm going to relate to the guessing game assignment that we did. So of course we're going to make a function, and I'm just going to call it guess. We got open parentheses, close parentheses, and then we got the opening fancy brackets with the close of a fancy brackets right there. Now, having made this function, I need to call it out in the main function so that it actually runs when the main function is called on line 12. So when it gets to line 12, it's going to come back here to the main function and say, oh, it wants you to run the guess function, which of course we put the name of the function, guess for me, open parentheses, close parentheses. We end every line of code with that semicolon right there. So what do I want to happen in my guess function? Well, I'm going to do the guess a number thing, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So first I'm going to display a message, console.log, open parentheses, open quotations. I'll just say, again, I'm just kind of introducing the game. I'm thinking of a number. Now I'm not saying it's in between any specific numbers, right? If I do that, then I have to start using like a high and low, some if statements, else statements. But I don't want to do that right now because this should be fairly new. Now, this right here would just, even this much right here will give you credit because it's going to run the guess function, which is just going to say I'm thinking of a number, any number. And that's what it's going to run in the main. But like I said, I do want some guessing to go on. I want the user to do some input. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to ask the user for input by storing it into a variable, and I'm going to call it user guess. Space equals space, and I'm going to use read capital INT because I'm looking for a number from the user. Open parentheses, open quotations. What number do you think it is? Question mark. Go ahead and try. Exclamation point, close quotations, close parentheses, semicolon. Now, that's going to allow the user to actually guess a number. And of course, they can put in any number that they want, so long as it's just an integer, shouldn't have any decimals or fractions. But now what I'm going to do is, this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take the user guess and I'm going to store this into a new user or a new variable. I'm going to call it the actual number. Now, since I'm not asking or going to do anything with what the user is doing, and make like some if-then statement, if statements or else statements, then what I'm going to do, because I just want this to be consistent over time, is I'm going to play a little trick on the user. I'm going to take the user guess, which is now stored, I'm going to add 1 to it. So what this is going to do is it's going to make the user always off by 1. And then I'm going to start displaying some messages. Now before I do that, just because of the way this turns out, I like to see a blank line because of course it went through this process. I'm thinking of a number, any number. What number do you think it is? Go ahead and try. They put a number in, some number. And I've already done the calculation on line 9 to make the user guess more than 1. So here's what I'm going to do as well with that, is I'm going to add a note, which I think you need on this assignment. And I'll just say that we're going to add 1 to the user guess. So they are always off by 1. Okay, so that's going to make it close. And then down here, what I'll do is I'm going to display the actual number to the user. So let's go and do that. And again, I've got a blank space here on line 14. So maybe this is what I'll do is I'm going to take this line right here, and we're going to make this one blank line. And then we'll go down a little bit further there. Let's make sure it's oriented the correct way. We got a correct indentation there. And now we're going to start displaying some messages to the user. So we're going to say console.log, open parentheses, open quotation, oh man, exclamation point, space, you were so close, exclamation point, close quotations, close parentheses, semicolon. This will take us to the next line of code. Console, again, we're just displaying messages now. I'm not asking the user for anything, but I'll say I was thinking of the number space quotations plus space actual number, which is the name that we gave the variable, the actual number on line 11 right there, plus space quotations, and then we'll just close that line with a period, semicolon. Then we'll go to line 19, console.log, open parentheses, open quotations, you were only off by 1. You should try again. Exclamation point, close quotations, close parentheses, semicolon. And this should be enough for you guys to see that it should run, assuming I haven't spelled anything incorrectly, which it doesn't look like I have. Again, I would check this actual number, and then down here, yep, there's the actual number variable being used. Looks like the spelling is correct, capital N as well for number, because I've used camel case. So this should be pretty good. Now let's take a look at this, see if we can see this complete. Let's see if we can make it small enough. Yeah, that's all the code right there. Let's take that line. Oh, that's not all the code. Let's go down to 20. There we go. There's all my code. And again, you can see, what is this going to do? Well, first up, it's going to run through line 1, which is a note, line 2, which is the function, and then it's going to say, oh, you want to run the function guess? Here we go. So it's going to find it on line 6. It's going to show the message, I'm thinking of a number, any number. Then it's going to ask the user, what number do you think it is? Go ahead and try. And that'll be on a new line, and whatever the user puts in as a number, it's going to store that into user guess variable. Okay, and then I've done the calculation. The actual number is going to be the user guess plus 1. And again, this is always going to make the user off by 1. And then we've got a blank line of code, and then after they enter that in, of course, this calculation on line 11 is done in the code, not being displayed to the user. So it's going to display that empty line, then it's going to go down to line 17. Of course, it skips lines 16 and 13 because those are notes. And line 17 says, oh man, you were so close. Next line, I was thinking of the number, space. So again, whatever number they put in, it's going to add 1 to it with a period at the end. And then the next line, which will display to the user, you were only off by 1, you should try again. So there's a little bit of trick being played on the user, but again, this is a function here, the guess function, which we've put inside of the main function, which is all we really need from this assignment. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Thank you for watching. See you next time.